Scott Ritter rips Donald Trump into shreds in this video.
Look at this. This man should go straight to hell for this. First of all, Donald, you've never been in that good a shape, you fat piece of orange face manure. I mean, my God. And then,
my dear friend, as always, thank you for accommodating my schedule. Before we get to the military issues involved in attempting to control Hormuz, this weekend we witnessed again the continued humiliation of Vice President Vance. 21 straight hours of negotiating, punctuated by 11 phone calls from the president and at least one from a foreign head of state, Benjamin Netanyahu, all monitored by the president's Zionist monitors, Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. What did this accomplish?
well, first of all, we have to understand that Donald Trump's in a world of trouble right now. I mean, he's doing a lot of aggressive posting, insane posting, to be honest. But this is a man who promised his political base that he would not get involved in another, war of aggression in the Middle East. He, had openly condemned past presidents for doing exactly what he has done now. This is one of the dumbest wars ever fought by America, and there are a number of dumb ones we've been involved in.
And this is actually so true, because out of every single president that could be in the White House right now, Donald Trump was the least person anybody expected to start one of the most disastrous war in America's history. Because this is it. Like, this war has set America back strategically, because right now Iran has a chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz, number one, and then because of the talks and Pakistan has failed, the only option left for America, apart from striking again to bomb nothing, because there's literally no more military targets in Iran, the only option left on the table is to do a blockade. And so what does a blockade mean actually? Iran has already enacted their own blockade. Now America just said, oh, we're going to enact our own blockade. It just doesn't make any sense. And the oil price right now is going higher and higher. The head of parliament speaker, Galibaf, he posted on Twitter, I'll put the post up here. He goes, if you're worried about the oil price right now, you'll be reminiscing on how cheap it was earlier, but you were wishing it goes back. And this was one of the guys, there was a delegation that went to Islamabad to have this conversation, to have the talks, and it failed. So right now, we can only just watch and see.
But this one has no basis in legitimacy whatsoever. This is 100% not only a war of choice, but a war in which the United States has been directed into combat by a foreign power. This isn't a war on behalf of the American people or American national security interests. This is a war on behalf of Israel, 100% pure. That's all it's about. And now the president, I think he thought that he could, get away with a quick victory, Venezuela style, because he bought Benjamin Netanyahu's nonsense about the fragility of the regime, that if they kill Ali Khamenei, that the regime will collapse, and then everything solves itself. They install a puppet government, and everybody lives happily ever after. But that, of course, is not what happened. Iran showed extreme resilience, and not only in terms of their ability to absorb punishment, but to deliver punishment. And in the end, the United States was compelled to seek a ceasefire. This was a ceasefire that was done at the behest of the United States, to a lesser extent at the behest of Israel. But Donald Trump, and this is something I ask people to do, we need to stop evaluating the current situation in terms of national security, of, defense questions are meaningless in this environment. Meaningless because this has nothing to do with the national defense of the United States. It has nothing to do with the foreign policy of the United States. This is about Donald Trump's narcissism. This is about sustaining the cult of personality. This is about the Trump brand. That's all this is about. And because the Trump brand right now needs some burnishing, he can't take blame for what has happened. He needs a fall guy. Enter J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was set up. He was sent to Pakistan to...
This is one of the things I like about Scott Ritter. He's so direct and blunt. And that's why a lot of people on YouTube actually like watching him. because he says it as it is. The people surrounding Donald Trump right now are literally just yes men. And if you watch the, I think what was they even having, like was it a committee meeting where all the different people in Trump's administration were all having a meeting, and the way they were addressing him, they address him like he's the Lord and God and personal savior. It was very weird. Like they so much adoration for just the president. It's crazy. Like a president needs to have people around him that are able to offer him like advice. If he's doing the wrong thing, they should be able to talk to him and be like, "Hey, we can't do this. There's a reason you have us here, so that we won't do certain things, so we can advise you to make better choices." But if you have people like Pete Hegseth that just say yes, boss, to everything that you say, oh my God, only God knows.
Fail. He was set up to ensure, the Iranians were ready to make a deal. There's the deal right there to be made. If you want something good for all parties involved, despite the tragedies taking place, it's there. The Iranians were well prepared. They came in with their teams. They had the notebooks. They had all the arguments laid out, all the facts. J.D. Vance had nothing except Witkoff and Kushner, who aren't there to do anything other than babysit, to ensure that he, sustains the narrative he's supposed to sustain, which is, we're here, but we're in charge. We have the demands. You get nothing. You don't get to dictate. America is the victorious party. Oh, you don't want to play our game? I'm going home. That was his job. Why? Because now Donald Trump is in a position to ride in and save the day. You see, Trump couldn't come in and do a deal with the Iranians, because he'd have to admit that he made a mistake, that we lost, that he was yielding. But now J.D. Vance has fumbled. J.D. Vance couldn't close the deal. Donald Trump, the great deal maker, will. This is his plan. The problem for Trump is the Iranians aren't playing that game. They're not going to yield. They're not going to do anything. There's a deal to be made there, but it's going to require the United States to eat some humble pie. And when we're dealing with the ultimate egomaniac, this malignant narcissist who occupies the White House today, there's no such thing as eating humble pie.
So what's Trump, before we get to Hormuz, what is Trump's next move? To resume the war in another week?
I don't think first of all, we're in a very dangerous situation because war is always on the horizon.
Right.
But there will, it's alleged that Albert Einstein once said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting a different outcome. If we resume the war, we're going to lose. There's nothing that's happened militarily that changes the dynamic that already delivered an American defeat. We don't control the Strait of Hormuz, and we never will control the Strait of Hormuz. We cannot collapse the regime. The more we bomb, the stronger the regime gets. And I know there's been a lot of C-17 flights moving around, replenishing the missiles on board the ships, getting more defense. But we will. And the Iranians said, "Do whatever you need to do. You'll burn through all your stuff within 2 days, and we'll be right back where we started."
What Scott Ritter is referring to here is he's basically saying there's literally no military targets available for America and Israel to target anymore in Iran. Why is that? Every single target that was above ground that they could target is being taken out already. That was why Trump made a crazy threat that an entire civilization is going to be wiped out, because they couldn't find any military target to target anymore above ground. And Iranians, they prepared literally decades for this war. So any valuable piece of equipment has been put on the ground, on the mountain, on the UHC cement, which means even the MOAB could never get to it. So that's why that's what literally what he's saying. There's nothing that can change. So even if you go back to war, Iran will still be able to project power outside of their borders. They'll still be able to launch drones, launch missiles, and they'll be able to hit every single one of the target. And also one thing you should be aware of is also they opened a corridor. That's why they attacked, like they intensified attacks on American bases for the past 40 days, because they want that corridor will be able to allow them to be able to position strike Israel, because there were so many bases around around Iran, in the American bases in the Middle East and all these countries, Bahrain, Qatar, and so on. So they destroyed all these bases. They literally rendered them badly damaged or just useless because there's nothing that can function out there anymore. That's why they were putting some soldiers in luxury hotels all over the Middle East. That's how bad they're going. So even if they go back to war right now, nothing tangible is going to strategically is going to change. The least best option is what Donald Trump did right now, which is to blockade the blockade. It doesn't make sense.
The same dynamics in play. Iran controls every aspect of this conflict. We can blow up buildings on the ground. That's all we can do. We don't even know it. If you think there's anything of value in any building in Iran today, I've got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. We're going to go back in there. Donald Trump says he's going to blow things up. Well, you touch a power plant, Donald Trump, and the lights go out throughout the Middle East. Every single major energy production field in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, in the United Arab Emirates, disappears, gone. And if you want to play even more stupid games, they'll start taking out desalination plants, and they'll do that in Israel as well. And that's life terminating. That's the end of modern civilization in this region. And this is where the Iranians are ready to go if that's the game the United States wants to play. This is why we stopped the war, because we had reached the cap of our escalation capabilities. Had we continued with his civilization erasing threats, there would be no energy coming out of the Middle East for a century. Trump stopped because he understood this, that we had gone. So what's he going to do? Start all over again? So this is why he's taken a new tack, the blockade, but this isn't going to work. A blockade is by definition an act of war. So he's in effect declaring war on Iran. And I anticipate that the Iranians will treat it as a warlike gesture, but I also anticipate that the allies of Iran aren't going to sit by and let this happen. I don't think any Chinese ships are going to say, well, we're not going to an Iranian port because of this. And I don't think any Russian ships are going to say the same thing. And I don't think the United States Navy is going to get too far boarding and detaining Chinese and Russian flagged ships at this juncture. So Donald Trump is posturing right now. Let's see where it goes, but there's no place for him to go because the outcome is guaranteed. Continued American military defeat, and we lose by not winning, and global economic disaster.
And that's it. That's literally the only option that Trump has got right now. Because what you should think about is the people or the countries that currently have an arrangement in place to have the ship pass through the Strait of Hormuz is mostly China and then Russia. So you're telling me America is going to board or seize Chinese flagged or Russian flagged vessels in the high seas? This they can do this. So in the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to see how the U.S. military actually enforce this blockade. Because from my perspective and from perspective of experts worldwide, this is a very dumb idea.
What does it take to effectuate a blockade, particularly one of an area this massive?
Well, first of all, it requires, extreme intelligence, meaning, and I'm not talking about the kind of innate intelligence that we're talking about that should be the purview of our elected leadership. I'm talking about intelligence from a systemic standpoint, from the U.S. intelligence community. We need to understand, where the ships are, where they're going, who they're flagged. And normally there's a mechanism in place. Lloyd's of London, the insurance companies, provides a lot of that. But because of the sanctions busting and because of the way this war has been going, the traditional way of tracking shipping is out the window. There's so much shadow fleet type activity taking place. So we need even better intelligence. Then the question comes, do we have the capacity to track, stop, search, detain these ships? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, look at a carrier battle group. First of all, the ships on the carrier battle group are there to protect the carrier. So if you have a cruiser or a frigate or a destroyer running picket, meaning they're the buffer between Iran's missiles and the carrier, the last thing these picket ships are going to be doing is diverting to intercept a tanker, because now they're off station. So we're going to need more ships coming in to do that.
Sure.
But as they move to detain, that is an act of war. And so if I were the Iranian ships or any ship, I would be leaving the Strait of Hormuz and hugging the coast of Iran and daring the United States to come in. Just saying, come on in, buddy, come on in, because those ships will be sunk by the Iranians. This blockade is as porous as, I mean, I can't come up with the appropriate metaphor at this point in time, but let's just say there's giant holes in this blockade. This is a politically motivated blockade that has zero chance of effectuating any impact on shipping coming out of the Strait of Hormuz.
What happens if an American helicopter with a half dozen Navy SEALs in it lands on a Russian tanker?
Well, if the Russian tanker has, some Wagner type PMCs, and that helicopter will never get to the tanker. It'll be shot down. The SEALs come down. There'll be a firefight on that boat. The SEALs may prevail, but now we're at war with Russia. So don't do it. I mean, this is stupidity in the extreme. But again, I don't know what Russia's doing right now in terms of beefing up, but there are reports that they have put Wagner veterans or PMC type people on these ships, armed them not only with light arms and machine guns, but also man pads. So if a helicopter comes in, they're going to be going up against combat hardened veterans. And I know the SEALs are pretty tough, but you're not too tough when you're on a helicopter and that helicopter has been struck by a man pad, and now you're going down in the water. You're just dead.
How desperate is Trump for an out from the war? It appears that he and his administration have given up the ghost on regime change. They have certainly given up the ghost on neutralizing or neutering, I'm not sure what the word is, Iran's ballistic missile. He was telling Maria Bartiromo had a look of surprise on her face, even though she's a friend and fan of his, that he still thinks the U.S. can capture the Iranian nuclear material. Now he's trying to close a series of ports, which just last Easter, 8 days ago, using harsh profanity on Easter Sunday, he demanded be open. How desperate is he?
Again, this is a man who is trapped. I mean, literally trapped in a device of his own making. He's going to lose. Again, I tell people, stop thinking about national security. If you think Donald Trump cares one iota about nuclear enrichment in Iran, he doesn't even know what it is. All right. We are literally talking about one of the dumbest human beings on the face of the planet currently occupying the office of the presidency. And he's surrounded by people who are sycophants, who are there to say yes and lay hands on him and treat him as if he's Christ, instead of advising him and telling him, no, this is stupid, pound sand. We're not doing that. So, here we've got this idiot who is in this trap, and he doesn't know how to get out. And all he knows how to do is bluster. You see, this is about preserving the Trump brand. This is a business deal for him that's going south badly. And so his number one priority is to preserve the brand. Trump brand must come out of this crisis with its, being burnished and that it's there. He is looking at losing an election in November. Now, he personally won't be because he's not on the ballot, but his party is. And if we lose the House, we being I'm speaking in terms of Trump now.
And that's true. Everything leads down to November, come November, because right now the Republicans, they have control of the House, both the Senate and also the lower house as well. So as it is right now, Democrats are slowly regaining control of the House and also the Senate. If this happens, Trump's become a lame duck president. He won't be able to, any policy won't be able to go through because the Democrats are definitely going to shut it down, or they're going to make it life hard for him. And also, you can remember the Epstein files is still in the background. Nobody has forgotten that, no matter how many wars Donald Trump wants to get into, just so that people can forget that. So once they lose control of the House, there's going to be a floodgate of just impeachment inquiries, so many lawsuits. It's going to be crazy once this open. Once Trump loses this November, or the Republican Party loses.
He loses the House, he's going to be impeached for 2 straight years. And it's the end of his presidency, and the legacy is tarnished and done. This narcissistic egomaniac can't handle that. And if he continues to screw up the way he is, such as imposing a blockade that leads to the shutting down of Bab el-Mandeb by the Houthi, and now we have $200 a barrel oil and the economy collapses on him, he could lose the Senate. And if he loses the Senate with sufficient numbers, he now will be impeached and convicted. And that's the end of the Trump brand. He can't handle this. His ego can't handle this. So he is desperate to get out of this situation, but it has to be handled properly so that he is not blamed. He's the Teflon Don. He's just going to walk through this thing. J.D. Vance screwed up Pete Hegseth. He's going to dump everybody to preserve the Trump legacy. But this is a sign of desperation. I'm telling you right now, Judge, I mean, I'm not, the world's greatest diplomat, but I've been there, done that on some pretty high profile stuff. You put me in charge of this negotiation, within 2 days, I'll have a deal that'll look good for Iran, look good for the United States, it'll be good for the world. But I care about the United States. I don't give a damn about Donald Trump's reputation.
How inappropriate was it for J.D. Vance to be taking instruction from the head of a foreign state?
Well, no, I mean, J.D. Vance is the vice president. And remember, the president of the United States took direction from Netanyahu on February 11th, when Netanyahu sat down with Trump and the head of Mossad and laid out the lies that, they can get regime change, that they can get the missiles, that this is it. We need you to commit. This is the same pitch that, Netanyahu had been making to, 3 previous American presidents. And they all said, no, we're not going to get involved in a major military engagement side by side with Israel against Iran. That is bad for America, bad for the world. We can't win. Donald Trump went for it. And then he turned around, and despite everybody telling him that's not a good idea, when I say everybody, I mean everybody. There's not a person in his cabinet that said, this is a good idea, Don.
John Mearsheimer, the political science of John Mearsheimer, he made it actually a very interesting argument. He said the deep state, and if anybody knows John Mearsheimer, he talks a lot about the deep state or the blob. They advised Donald Trump not to start this war because they've gamed it so many times. They've researched it. They know that once an attack happens on Iran, it ultimately changes their whole calculation in the middle. Is the strategic positioning changes. And Donald, even like Anthony Blinken, he gave an interview. He said Netanyahu came to his administration saying, we're going to attack Iran and we're going to do it without you, with or without you. And then Obama was like, no. And then Israel backed down. But Donald Trump was the only one that was gullible enough to fall for it, against the wishes of every single American. Even Joe Kent, the former national counterterrorism chairman or whatever, he said no. He said there was no imminent threat from Iran. The only imminent threat was Israel was going to attack Iran, and as a result, Iran was going to attack every single American bases in the region and also Israel.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you go with the Israelis? The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Israelis oversell themselves all the time. We need to be very careful here. Both Rubio and the director of the CIA, this regime change thing ain't going to happen. He didn't allow Scott Bessington because Bessington might went, what about the economy, boss? There's this thing called oil, and it's going to go crazy. And boss, are we really want to do this? He kicked him out. Tulsi Gabbard wasn't allowed in because she went, what nuclear weapons program? And, on and on and on. Pete Hegseth, of course, is just, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. And so here we are. J.D. Vance took a call from Netanyahu because Donald Trump took his orders from Netanyahu. And so Netanyahu has a vested interest in all of this.
And also in the post that Netanyahu actually posted on X, he said, the J.D. Vance called me, or the administration called me, and they reported to me as they always do. I'm going to put the text up as well. He says, as they always do. This is crazy for America to be reported to a foreign head of state about their movement over the military campaign. It's crazy to me. Like, what?
What does the Trump brand gain by attacking and insulting the Pope and by mocking Catholicism and Christianity?
Judge, I'm finishing up an article right now called American Blasphemy, which talks about this very issue. I mean, this is stunning for me. This proves that Donald Trump is the most anti-American person ever to occupy the White House. This man is the antithesis of what the United States is supposed to be. We go back to the Federalist Papers. We talk about Madison. We talk about Hamilton. We talk about Jay, and we talk about, these were devout Christians, and when you listen to them speak about these issues, and they say this is we are a nation where the Bible matters. The Bible, the divine touch of God, things of that nature. At no time did they say that we, the American people, or we, American leadership, are somehow divinely empowered. It was just the opposite. We've received our guidance from God, but God gives us this empowerment. Thomas Jefferson, I think he wrote a letter in 1802 to the Danbury Baptists who were worried about state religion, and that's where he came out and said separation between church and state. There will be a separation here. There must be. Donald Trump is the opposite of that. He is claiming to be Christ. That image you just showed up, he is Christ. He is doing Christ-like activities. This is not a separation of church and state. This is bringing it together. Slam dunk. Look at this. This man should go straight to hell for this. First of all, Donald, you've never been in that good a shape, you fat piece of orange face manure. I mean, my God. And then, hey, if I'm a black American, I'm sort of concerned. There's no black Americans there. There's no Hispanic Americans there. There's no Asian Americans there. It's just a bunch of white people looking up at a white Jesus. This is disgusting. This is despicable. And then he posted another picture of himself as the Pope, implying that somehow he is, could be a better job at the head of the Catholic Church.
Honestly, they need to arrest whoever Donald Trump's social media handler is. That guy, he needs to be fired. Or probably he's even dropped from himself. We can't tell. Because what is going on right now, Donald Trump, his phone needs to be taken away from him. Honestly. Because he's in a position, his authority, his office has so much power and leverage, and he's just using it to post memes of himself as a pope, as a I need to calm down. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave it here. You can go watch a full show on Judge Andrew Napolitano's show. He's one of my favorite YouTubers as well, and I watch him every single time whenever I get the opportunity to. But yeah, as I said, guys, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. Bills motivates me to do more. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.